Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Dallas Literary Festival. I want to introduce you to Dallas's own Kendra Allen, and she's going to take it over from here.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being at the Dallas Lit Festival with us. I am so excited to introduce this conversation between Checkwube Danladi and Tyehimba Jess, both of who I'm big fans of. Tyehimba Jess is the author of 2 books of poetry, Leadbelly and Olio, which won the 2017 Pulitzer Prize, the Anisfield-Wolf Book Award, the Midland Society Authors Award in Poetry, and received an outstanding contribution to publishing Citation from the Black Caucus of the American Library Association. Leadbelly was the winner of the 2004 National Poetry Series. The Library Journal and Black Issues Book Review both named it one of the best poetry books of 2005. He'll be in conversation with Chekwube Danladi, who is the author of Semiotics, winner of the 2019 Cave Canem Poetry Prize. From Lagos, by way of West Baltimore, she currently lives in Chicago, where she teaches at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. I'm so excited to be able to witness the gems that I know is going to be dropped on us in a minute. And I'll turn it over to Chekwube and see you later.
Thank you, Kendra. Thank you so much for that. Such a generous intro. And I'm feeling pretty open about how we can spend this time. So I don't know if Tyehimba, you wanted to go first and read some work.
I think you should hit it.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll go first then. And then I'll try to keep myself, I don't want to talk for too long or read for too long so that we can, get to talking. But yeah, it's a pleasure to be here with you all. Thank you all for joining us. Happy Sunday. I hope it's sunny wherever you are. I'll read maybe 4 poems. This first poem is called Against Representation. I refuse to thank the rich thieves who attempt to sell me my own image. I refuse the faltering archetype painted onto my playful trickster gods. I lament the value my nostalgia gifts, the northern lovers who've deserted me. So let run amok my untamed flames to claim the natural tormented status. Low devil, Ashawo, mirror, truth seer, grateful for disbelonging if it commits me further to my freedom. Which passions resists commercial trade? I hunger for hot lust and great void, tedious lessons and infatuations, frenzies that stoke the meek into action, endless leisure that leads to no production. Confession, though not nearly enough. If not careful, words become empty, renderings and shallow airs, dead revolutions at the podium. Many will clap, then return to the purchase line. But no insurrection can be bought, nor can they be inglorious, nor can they be corporately sponsored, nor can they aim toward material bounties. Only our urgency brings us to fruition. Let's abundance yield abundance, which only the fearful hoard. To abandon greed in service to loveliness, I must allow you in and feed you for my own well-being. Barter obligation against loneliness. Let goodness yield more goodness. When woeful, I often check my bags for which treat was left behind. This second poem is called Accra Wedding. The yellow sun had halved and the year was indeterminate. I had crossed the ocean in reverse to meet him on the beach. Our guests collected their bones from the floor and rose to greet me. A man with the surname Donkal, slave. Mine was Gargadi, caution. Sprung off how our darkness paired, we spoke in Hausa, though through time we broke into trade language. For instance, in order to say, I once loved you. We had a night wedding in the captive tradition, a separate ceremony for each just acquired lord. For a wedding gift, each forged us an iron collar inscribed with gospel. To each we offered our declarations of fidelity. Our first dance happened in ankle fetters. Our first dance had been our first touch. We whispered hurriedly of how long it had been since last we had seen each other. We fed each other karkashi, burukutu, roast plantain, and fried pork back. We turned indoors where we claimed rhythm as our portion. Fate coming soon to Silhouette, we thought to hyphenate our destinations. I listened as our bone people shouted for him to break me for my blood. This third poem is called Spontaneous Repulsion. Times look to us a tensile hook and tug, taught best by the natural world's anguished kinks, bird in a gator's teeth, lush afterglow of unrepentant earth having given itself to be scorched. Than us, who better to catalog our failures, having been inside each at the same time, grounded by eating overripe figs, thanking the table's barrier, asking aloud for coffee, a close call to feeling, a monophony of coyotes. This one brave as hell, strutting in here all overripe, braved coming into hair hell. Come with my sickly smell. Pull the corner store still frame at its grubby edges, our flower dress mid-thigh, waist beads showing through loosened buttonholes. The aroused hum of such hungry hours, or because of our growing into mother's face, of us who's not inclined. So ask some days to name a child, theoretically. Who but she knows tomorrow, the name we give? An all right bet, but the body barks back constantly. Dark elbows, barbelled nipples clanking the plexiglass display. Swisher Sweet, a bamboo bitch, skin lightening cream. Nothing cares to hold past one long maybe. Envision mother in ourself, in the world, holding back. The days we bit our lip in glee, when Ma's hand hovered over our childish heads, never still. Ma's hand pulling the plate too hard, initiating our apart. Let's see. I'm gonna read just one more. Wait, let me check time, just to make sure I'm okay on time. I think I'm okay. And yeah, this is a newer poem, and it's called Tranquility. In the downpour of this day's nicked throat, imperial blue-red upon another useless waking. It's all mixed up now, and the sky is pitch hollow. Only zombies roam the roads, donning a love for flesh, crack open their skins for pity. I'll have to live in it, monkey suit, at least some ordinary hours. The fifth day sober, sincere and dragging, my poor will brought along 2 rough black stones in my pocket. Parched need, since every sense must now be so express. A bird's yellow voice, pillow soft concrete at night. At least it was summer. No sick skin in sight. Deep orange and blending right in, borderline, intangible. A bomb sets off at the end of the street and the children break out in sweet laughter. Their fathers too. Finally, happy men. My blood is pressing on me hard in the light show. Exile is very romantic, isn't it? Tending a lifelong blues, chronically remaking the same expulsion, always holding arms up and out, always holding out. It really reminds me of the age of swift knuckles, eyes readied as blades, hard all day. Still can't shake the tired of it, that young rage. A bomb sets off right beneath my window. Bile green aftershocks. I want to confess everything. When it was winter, there had been the usual chronic, runny, white haze, wanting from such a short distance, only a cold hole to cringe at. Sometimes I imagined her cool breath to my air, carrying the sweet smell of cooking caramel. It's been a shame to be so hungry for you, truly. Nothing settles it. Every turn of day to night has a grinding edge. Too cautious a standoff. So far as I'm concerned, we've suffered enough of no more. Okay, I'll stop there. I'll stop there for now.
Wow. Fire. All right, man. That was wonderful. That was I love the imagery. The imagery is so lush and and daring. I think is the word I want to use. Thank you. It's a pleasure to hear you for the first time. Uh,
Thank you. It's so good to get to share. Get to share in your presence. I'm really looking forward to hearing some of your work as well. I've heard you read, I think, a couple of times in person, like as an audience member. So I'm excited for this chance too.
let's hit it then. uh, huh. Here's one. This is a relatively new one. This one is off of a saying. You know, we have all kinds of ways of greeting each other and whatnot. And this is an old school one. You know, in New York they say "What's good," but the way I heard it originally was "What you know good," and that's from my aunt who was out of Oklahoma, and then I got to know her as a kid in Detroit. What you know good? It's true. I ain't no good, but I do know better. I know the Detroit summers, furnace and fury, the Chi-town winter hawk beatdown. I know the Brooklyn-born treetops in spring, their slow spun good of shadow I lean into. I know that ain't no good deed gone unbeloved by somebody got no sense. I got the good gospel of blues beneath my skin. And I know I got it good when I kneel before my baby's good thing. When I'm drowning on her silk salt goodness, gritty enough to squint the good hot air smothering our goddams. I know I got it bad, about as good as it gonna get till I'm good and gone. The good foot slides stepping me on out this plane. Been told I ain't nobody's good man because I got a good mind to get good heavens with good weed that gets me golden smoky. What I know good? I know that you know that they know that we know that don't nobody got the goods or warrants on me. As good as I can tell. See, you got the good hand, baby. I just barely got me this good credit. Just got this good job. I was trying to get a good look out of this poem, trying to keep it out the mouths of the good old boys, perched like Confederate statues on gilded plinths of God bless Americas. I was trying to keep head above good times, writhing the good fight, fried as good hair and twisted as good intentions. What I know good starts with a brick and ends with a book and bleeds in between. It walks through the screen door of promise with chisel sharp fine print tunneled deep in its smile. What I know good is like I said, I ain't no good, but goodness, don't I get a chance to make it all good before the bullet gets out the gun or the knee hits the neck or the noose gets hung or the bail gets set? You know good and well what the answer is. What I know good is what I left behind. Good God, what never leaves me, history. What I know good will always be enough to bury me. But here I am, good enough, ain't I? To tell you all the good I know. So what you know good, Dallas, what you know good. Here's another one. This one is, you know what? This one, a friend of mine in Chicago hit me to this saying by Paul Mooney, the infamous, famous, amazing comedian, bard. And so here it is. This is called 100 Times. And the epigraph is from Paul Mooney. He said, I say nigga 100 times before breakfast every morning just to keep my teeth white. Of course, I was skeptical. But because there's often wisdom in the hardest humor, I stood before the mirror one sunrise and began my morning chant. All repeated calmly for the first week, but with flavors added on as the regimen continued into the second. 50 with ER and 50 with ah. 1/4 as question, 1/4 as surprise, 1/4 as anger, 1/4 implying the complaining please. All alternately whispered, shouted, laughed, snarled, all in search of the ideal whitening formula. After 4 weeks, I remained skeptical. However, perseverance paid off by the 6th, when colleagues remarked on my brightened, hazeless smile, when friends alerted me to a steely glint in my grin. I doubled the regimen to maximize results. Week 8 saw a 2/3 increase in brightening, with a luminousness approaching diamond quality, particularly in the lower incisors. The uppers were sun white, never leaving room in their shine for shadow. Side effects became audible as well as visual. Small echo became perceptible after each repetition in my mantra, such that the cadence assumed a wondrous work song rhythm. Upon closer examination, magnifying mirrors revealed one small brown man peering into the side of each tooth's mirror smooth enamel, each one appearing only briefly before each utterance. Alarmed, but intrigued, I enhanced my treatment. Various gesticulations were added to the morning litany. Sneers, chuckles, sighs, and facial contortions were enhanced throughout. As a result, the echo's intensity increased from slight, windy whisper to low murmur to small and steady chorus each morning, a daily affirmation of my will to shine. A halogen glare burned from my mouth throughout the day. I became a walking lighthouse of shine. The ritual has grown above and beyond and through me. I wake each morning to stand before my mirror, and before I open my mouth, I hear the chant begin above and around me, as if I were in the middle of the mantra's core, as if I'm one in a circle of prayer. I have found others who hear the chant with me, or they found me. Those who raise up with me each morning to stand before our mirrors with the diamond sharp sound of ourselves polishing each tooth until we gleam. Our numbers grow daily. We shimmer and shine inside the bulging head of our chant, polishing our glowing mirrors, staring into the glare until we shield our eyes. And I'll follow up with another two. Oh, that's my laptop got unplugged and my battery's bad, so I got to plug it back in. So, here's one from Leadbelly. Leadbelly, American blues man, folk singer, 1885 to 1949, 2 convictions, 1 for murder, 1 for attempted murder, 500 songs off the top of his head. Cornerstone of American folklore. This one is in the voice of well, this is a story that I ran across in researching Leadbelly. He was out of Shreveport, Louisiana, which is not that far from Dallas, as a matter of fact. And he had this experience with the local, with the local owner of the general store, whose name was indeed Mr. Haney. Leadbelly's lessons. Mr. Haney owned Shreveport's general store, where $1 a week bought my 12-year-old frame's lift and lunge of barrel and crate across a sawdust floor. Still, he wanted more. See, the guitar refused to get naked with Haney. He would fumble up its hidden seam, up the seams of its hidden croon, with hook, clasp, and bodice of each tune mangled down to a stunted strum. So he quit. He'd hoist bourbon and order me to hoist song, the velvet locomotive of marrow deep hum I towed up from the swollen center of guitar, its catch and slide caught between palms and cradled across Louisiana starlight. His bottle and scowl grew louder with each reel and jump that I played while getting paid to show the way of undressing music from its wooden clothes. But it was like coaxing stone to bathe in sky. He never let his flesh wallow in the blue floating round his earth, so he buried himself deep in his own dirt. He'd think on the hurt a white man can do. Without second thought, he'd slur, "Nigga, someday I'm gonna kill you," and stagger home. It was there, alone, in the dark darkness of me, that I first learned the ways of pure white envy. And thank you, Mr. Haney, for teaching me. And I think I'll close out today with one from this last book, Olio, which is about 19th century, late 19th century, early 20th century Black creatives. And here you go. I think this one for Blind Boone. Blind Boone was an interesting cat. You know, he was he got encephalitis at about 6 months, if I remember correctly. And the only cure they had was removal of his eyes in order to save his fevered brain from being crushed by the pressure inside his skull. Later on, he had the he became a really famous piano player. And later on in his career, he had the opportunity to record the piano roll for a player piano company. Okay, he had to have somebody to sit at the piano and actually play the thing first. And he went to this company, and he thought he was qualified. They didn't, and he made a bet. He also had a standing bet that he could play back anything that was played to him, note for note. He never lost that bet. Never lost that bet. So that plays a role in Blind Boone's Pianola Blues. They said I wasn't smooth enough to beat their sharp machine, that my style was obsolete, that old rags had lost their gleam and lunge, that all I had left was a sucker punch that couldn't touch the invisible piano man with his wind-up gutless guts of paper rose. And so I went and told them that before the night was through, I'd prove what the son of an ex-slave could do. I dared them to put on their most twisted tune, to play a double time while I listened from another room past the traffic sounds of the avenue below, to play it only once, then to let me show note for note how that scroll made its roll through Chopin or Bach or Beethoven's best. And if I failed to match my fingers and ears with the spinning gears of their invisible pneumatic piano scholar, I paid them the price of $1,000. And what was in it for Boone, you might ask? Well, might be the same thing that drives men through mountains at heart attack pace. Might be just to prove some tasks ain't meant to be neatly played out on paper and into air, but rather should tear out from lung, heart, and brain with a flare of flicked wrists and sly smile above the 88s. And of course, that ever-human weight of pride that swallows us when a thing's done just right. But they were eager to prove me wrong. They chose their fastest machine with their trickiest song and stuck it in a room far down the hall from me. They didn't know how sharp I can see with these ears of mine. I caught every note, even though they played it in triple time. And when I played it back to them even faster, I could feel the violent stares, heard one mutter, "Lucky black bastard." And that was my cue to rise, to take a bow in their smoldering silence and say, "Not luck, my friend, but the science of touch and sweat and stubborn old toil. I bet these 10 fingers against any coil of wire and parchment and pump." And I left them there to ponder the wonders of blindness as I walked out the door into the heat of the sun. Blind Boone. So it was wonderful hearing you read, Chekube.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that we have this chance post-reading to get to talk to each other a little bit, because part of what I was trying to say in my haze at the beginning is that we met for about 2 minutes once in, I want to say 2016, when you came to Champaign-Urbana for Pygmalion.
Yeah.
And we met, I think, in an appropriate place. It was like a jazz club band was playing in the background. We were in this club, this music hall in Champaign, and there was a jazz band, and it was like lots of purple lights.
Wow. I think I remember that. Right.
It was so fleeting, you know, just a couple of minutes, but I had the chance to get my book signed by you. So I actually have, where is it? Yeah, you wrote this really nice note to me in there.
Oh, Oh, wow. Thank you.
So it's really cool to get to have more time to actually sit and talk to you properly this way.
See, now I'm gonna hold on to this, and I'm gonna get your signature. All right, I'm gonna do that.
When the worlds collide again, yes. Yeah. So I have a question for you personally, or about your work. Not to hop in over the audience questions, but maybe it's just a way to think things.
Now I got questions for you too.
I was really okay. Cool. I'm glad. I really loved the way that the first poem you read. Pardon me for forgetting the title. Built narrative. It was like a story was coming on. And there was this like this sense of wandering across different places, Brooklyn and Chicago and all these other places. It felt very nostalgic and also connected to people, people that you love and know and who have loved you too. And so I was kind of curious about how else in your poetry you're holding close to that ancestry, to that history. How else your work is maybe trying to do that, if that is a priority.
That's a really good question. I would say that wow, I always feel flooded with ancestors in so many different ways. And then also with the people that have, walked with me on the path. I mean, when I like that first poem, I really am thinking of Aunt Gladys, who would, she was introducing like the mechanics of poetry to me in a weird in a colloquial way, in a way that she would also say, "What's up?" I would take language so literally, like, so you're saying, what do I know that's good? Is that what you're saying? Or what good? Or do I know the thing well? It's kind of things would be going on in my head, but it was just, what's up, yo? It's like what good. But I feel like I carry her in the memory of Aunt Gladys, who had a troubled life in many ways, but was a beautiful, sweet human being. And also the places. I mean, I grew up in Detroit. It will always be part of me. Chicago, I mean, it's kind of under my skin all the time. And even living in Champaign, that's a part of me. And now New York is a whole different thing. But I really, I have to say that I treasure being from the Midwest in a certain kind of way, because I think there's a certain kind of understanding that of the world of the United States, that you get there, that if folks on the East Coast sometimes don't understand certain things happening in America, it seems. And I'm like, well, have you visited the Midwest? You might understand things a little better,
Mm-hmm.
But I could turn that question around for you, because you've been in many different places as well. Uh, um, I'm forgetting. I'm sorry. I'm forgetting where you're originally from. You're from.
I was born in Lagos in Nigeria.
Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
And now and then Baltimore, and then Chicago. It's like you're gathering this international, like Pan-African experience, and going from the continent to Baltimore on the coast, and then going deeper inland into Chicago. And when I'm reading your work, I feel Chicago so deeply in your work. I see how the landscape is there, how the language of Chicago is there, etc. The and I really feel it. How is that? And I see that processing across the waters. That's a very unique experience. And how do you see yourself balancing those things, those different regions?
Yeah, you know, that's so interesting because it doesn't feel so active for me. It doesn't feel so, or conscious maybe. It's, it's, I think I've just become used to being scattered in places, but also as a result, like you said, these places don't feel arbitrary for any reason. Even if my time in them is not usually long, I feel often like I'm just kind of passing through. But when I pass through, I feel like I really dig in. And it's so funny to hear you say that the Chicago is coming out, because I think I was holding out, but now I can't help it. It's all the broken glass, you know, and sirens and all that stuff kind of bleeds in without any warning. So it's interesting to see that coming in too, because it's like as soon as I'm able to get a grasp on where I've just come from and process that, then there's this new place. So yeah, it's strange, but I'm glad you asked this question, because I've actually learned to, when I was younger, it felt disorienting to exist this way, and confusing, and I had a very poor sense of myself, I guess. But over time, that's actually changed to it feels kind of like a privilege. I've come to recognize it as a privilege in a lot of ways, as a additional forms of power through these different identities, right? And that feels kind of subversive, just because, you know, I was bullied a lot as a kid for like how Black I was, like literally my skin color, and then also my origins, you know. But over time that's flipped. And now people are interested in that. And so it's really, yeah, a lot has changed in terms of my sense of identity, but also it's been like that the whole time, I guess. I don't know. It feels, you know, how lucky am I that I get to live in Chicago while also knowing what it's like to have lived in Lagos. I've had that experience also.
Right.
I guess that's what I mean by a privilege or power.
Yeah. One thing I definitely got from Chicago was an understanding, like a up close understanding of the blues. I mean, there were more active blues clubs on the south side of Chicago back in the day than there are now.
Yeah.
Like there's no checkerboard, there's no Lee's I don't know if Lee's Unleaded Lounge is still up. I don't think that it is. But that, I mean, dramatically shaped my understanding um of 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 a kind of dialectic between sense and sound in politics, and my understanding of a process of bending and not breaking, or an aesthetic that bends for the people's voice in order to stop from breaking, you know. And now I think, you know, I think it's changed. I'm not going to say it's changed, but it's not as prevalent as it used to be, because a lot of that generation that really was that deep into the blues enough to support the clubs on the south side is not there anymore. And really what it is now seems to be house music, you know.
Yeah.
And it's much the same aesthetic in a lot of, but it's no, there's an electronic, but kind of electronic synthesis with a kind of gospel sense of the voice, you know. Just something that occurred to me, and I just feel you bathing in that in your lexicon, in your work, you know.
I try to. It leaks in, and I would at some point later I'll need to ask you for some recommendations after When we can go back to the clubs,
Oh.
I would love to check some of those out.
I hope they're still open, to be honest, you know.
From my vantage point, I live in Woodlawn. From my vantage point, there are some, but you're right. They feel very sparse. It doesn't feel like there's that many. So, yeah, please go ahead.
Well, we have some, do we have some questions on the chat?
I think I saw a question earlier about someone, here it is, from Katie O'Malley, about how to find and develop your own style for reading your poems aloud.
You want to hit that?
Sure. That's a good question. I think what I'm just trying to do is sound like myself. I used to worry that maybe I had to develop maybe more confident persona or more amusing or something. Because I also get this sense that my poetry, some of it can be kind of heavy. So I was like, how do I make that? I don't know. I guess I was worried about being lighthearted. I've abandoned that worry now. So I think I just try to sound like myself, which sometimes is just low and slow. So yeah, I'm just trying to sound like myself, I guess.
I feel that, but also I feel that you have a quietude in your writing that is betrayed by the vividness of your lines. It seems like you have some really good lines. I was trying to write some of them down, but my handwriting is terrible here. But you said which passions, and she said something about commercial, and the first one again about commercial trade of passion. Which passions resist commercial trade? I love the way you're bringing these. You're posing this question inside the poem, which is clearly your passion, right? And then it's a form of resistance against the commercialism of the trade, which is what we are. Well, maybe I'm foisting some things onto your work, but what I was interpreting from that was that is the act that is what Black artists have to do, is to navigate that terrain and to keep an eye on how their work is being undermined by by commercial efforts. That's and so I really identify with that. For my answer to the question, I was on a few slam teams. I was on the Green Mill Slam team, 99 and 2000. I did open mics for many years in the Shy, and I kind of came of age in a space where I had to, one had to cut through a lot of other sounds, So I learned to inhabit poems in that kind of way. And also I think that I have in doing persona poems, there's a kind of an invitation to inhabit the voice of the speaker of the poem. And that is a kind of that's a kind of a demand that is really interesting to me. Yeah. So yeah, that's how I synthesize that process. What was some other? Yeah, got some other questions here.
Yeah, Kendra wanted me to make sure that we talked a little bit about Cave Canem, which is cool. I'm excited to, yes. And
Yes.
since I mean, from my perspective, I would consider you a Cave Canem elder, you know, or uncle, or like, you know, so you have much more experience than me, even though I've been blessed with with having won the prize. But yeah, if there's something, if you wanted to talk a bit about that.
Well, I would say that Checkwube has won an extremely prestigious prize. That's the Cave Canem First Book Prize. Has a fantastic lineage. I would say that the first, well, not the first, but two Pulitzer Prize winners have had their first books come out of that prize. That would be Natasha Trethewey and Tracy K. Smith. Okay, so it's not a joke to get the Cave Canem Prize. Cave Canem is a fellowship of Black poets that foster each other's work and that are about the preservation and the facilitation of Black poetry. So it's this. We are now in our 25th year. I was fortunate enough to stumble upon a a tiny ad in a coffee shop on 55th Street in 1996, and it was the very first thing I applied for. And what Cave Canem helped do was eliminate the kind of isolation that Black poets felt, and in so many different ways. I mean, academically, socially, um, uh, uh, in terms of our artistic development, etc. It was a place where Black poets, and it still is a place where Black poets can come together and hone each other's work without being tied to a particular aesthetic. In other words, there is no one way to write a Black poem. There, you come to the poem in your Blackness and you inhabit it, and it is what it is. So it has been really one of the uh, most pivotal change agents of American literature in the last 25 years, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. So I've been, very glad to be a part of that history. Um, I would not be here doing this what I'm doing without Cave Canem. I just put it that simply. So I'm so glad to see, Checkwube, that you know, you are part of this legacy in this particular way.
It
And
definitely.
Evie Shockley, also, who's an amazing poet. I can see Evie's soul and intellect.
Mm.
I can imagine her running across these poems for the first time and then grabbing her. So I totally see it. Yes.
Thank you. That's why I gotta call it a blessing, because that's definitely what it feels like. So it's so
Glad
good
you
to
applied.
Oh man, I almost didn't too. I was so scared.
See? That's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a great company to keep. Absolutely, fantastic folks. I know we're out of time. I have like so many other questions, but I'll stop. I'll stop them. But the last thing I wanted to say is that even though this was between you and I, Tyehimba, which was a pleasure, my secret wish is that we could have heard something from Kendra, because I'm such a fan. So I guess that means I'll just have to look out for your appearance somewhere else. But thank you, Kendra, for gathering us, and Sandaria also for keeping us together this way.
So I'll just ask one, we have time for one thing. Any advice to aspiring poets while you're here? Any advice for the listeners?
Checkwube.
I guess it would actually kind of relate to how we just ended that last question, which is to take the risk. There are many times, even now, constantly, where I worry about if my work is good enough for something, and that can really hold you back more than you would want. So I found that when I take the risk, it usually pays off, even in ways I don't expect. But yeah, push yourself, I guess, to push yourself past the fear.
I would second that emotion, and why not you? Why not you with a poetry book is one thing I would say. Why not you? Why why not give it a shot? And write the book. I'm paraphrasing Toni Morrison, but write the book that you have not seen yet, that you know needs to be written. That's the thing. So go at it, and just live wild on the page. Just go for it.
But thank you all for being here. Thanks, Kendra, Tyehimba. Not going to mess up your name. But I'm so happy you're here.
You can call me Check.
I'm going to get it right before I do that. But Tyehimba is a friend of Dallas, and now you are as well. And Kendra lives here, and she'll definitely be at the next literary festival. So you can hear her read there, if not before. We're so proud to have her here. Our next events we're going to be talking about independent bookstores. They're probably in the waiting room right now, waiting on us. And something near and dear to my heart, and Tyehimba's been there as well. The Lit Night Reading Series debut authors will be also on the next panel. So thank you all very much. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thank you.
Peace. Good seeing y'all.